All right, so welcome. Let's see, there we go. So what we're looking at here today is we're going to continue working a little bit on prompts. So if you go to today's agenda page, uh, Alyssa, you're the only one. Can you give me, do you see, am I sharing the right screen? Is the agenda, our homepage and now agenda up?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, that's all I need to know. All right, so what we're gonna, I've added a little bit, taken away. Here's some content resources if you need to review. I do want to kind of point out to you, Apush, our College Board, has actually been putting together like review sessions. So you can actually, some of them are scheduled to be coming up here pretty soon, like on 428, 429, 430. Some of them have already happened. So these are really good. They're led by good teachers. I actually know a couple of them. So good people. So use that as needed. As always, you can go to like Heimler History or Gilder Lehrman and Khan Academy I put up there as well. This Fiveable as well has, oops, this is for the AP World. Sorry, let me go to, so if I go to Apush, then here's all their review sessions as well. So there's two things that I definitely want you to kind of pay attention to. Here's our current open assignments. Now, what we're going to do is this week, Monday, we're going to work specifically on context and thesis. Wednesday, we're going to work on using the documents. And on Wednesday, I'm going to give you an actual time DBQ. So on Wednesday, when I give you the question, I'm going to ask that you kind of self-check yourself and try to do a DBQ in 45 minutes. We'll talk more about that on Wednesday, but this will be our first real sample, and I'll be able to get back. I will grade those over the weekend, and then we'll talk about them on Monday. So, I mean, that's where we're at. So here's a real brief breakdown of context again, just in case you need to review. Our assignment here is 2020 DBQ context. And if you click on that, what you will see is a question. So a little bit of brief breakdown of what context is. Here is a question. Here is a sample. I happen to write this one myself. Whether it's good or bad, you can use that as a means to kind of evaluate. And then what I've done is I've given you 5 prompts. See if you can write a context based upon these prompts. Keep in mind, they're all different time periods. We're looking for, can you provide the background needed to be able to provide what needs to occur, or provide the background, provide the understanding for the reader that you know what you're going to be talking about. So real simple, just work on it. Try to limit yourself to less than, try to keep it to a couple of minutes. We'll talk about, again, the process on Wednesday, but try to don't spend too much time on one context. Just kind of knock it out and move on. And if you don't get it, you don't get it. But this is a practice of 5 good prompts. I also have thesis here. So thesis, I also have a practice on thesis as well. In this case, you're only having 3 thesis prompts because I've provided 5 or 3 whole DBQs here that you could be looking at, okay, to be able to write your thesis. Again, I have provided, if I go down to it, I provide a little background. Here's a quick slide review on how to write a good thesis. In our thesis, we want to make sure we have 2 strong claims that we're going to argue. Those claims must be kind of discussed in a very, very brief way. Okay, so you just can't say it helped the economy. You have to specifically say it helped the economy by increasing wages for the worker. That's more specific than just helping the economy. And so that's the number one thing that I'm saying when I'm giving back information to people is their claims are not specific enough. So be very, very clear in what you are going to try to argue. They don't have to be perfect, but we want to try to get these done really, really quickly. Okay. So those are our 2 assignments. I'm asking that these are completed by Wednesday so that I can see people's work and we can talk about it on Wednesday. And be able to move on to being able to use the documents. And then again, like I said, we're looking at writing our first DBQ over the weekend in a timed manner. The last thing I kind of want to talk about today. So is there any questions about context or review from the 3 people who have joined us? Okay, silence means no. What I would like to do is just kind of look at a couple of these context and thesis practices. So I had downloaded a couple. Let me pull one up here. Where did I do that? Let me go ahead and pull one down. Download. Maybe I don't want to do that. Let's just do this. I apologize if I'm pulling one person's up here, but it seems a lot of people have kind of worked together, which is fine, but you always want to make your answers your own. You move that. Okay. So I just kind of want to show people kind of what we're looking at here. So this was somebody's who submitted theirs, and a couple of things that I've seen. So when we're looking at thesis, and this has been my general comment here. So the question is, evaluate the extent to which differing views of immigration shape government policies. So how people viewed immigration, how did that shape how the government acted? Remember, we had basically 2 different views of immigration. One was let them in, and one was keep them out. So those are our 2 different views. Now, what did the government enact as far as laws, regulations that help to support one of those 2 views? So when I look at this answer, the different views of immigrants shaped government policies because immigrants allowed for labor work to increase as well as growth in the economy. So when I look at this, I'm guessing their first claim is immigrants allowed for labor work. I don't even know what that means. Now, are we trying to say immigrants did the menial labor? Immigrants were used for labor? That's fine. So then we'd want to say that immigrants were welcomed in. If we're also looking at, how did it shape? It increased the growth in the economy. That doesn't tell us anything. So again, we need to be really specific. Same thing here. If I look at this one, evaluate the extent of changing government policies and public opinion on immigration during this period. Really, this looks like the same one, doesn't it? Evaluate the extent to which government policies. So it's really the same question. Sorry. Americans sought to resolve their political disputes through compromise during the period of 1820-18. Analyze why compromise became less and less feasible. So the question is, we gotta be able to answer why compromise wasn't workable. Why wasn't it workable during this time period? Because people were not willing to compromise any longer. So when we look at like a thesis, we want to come up with claims that are going to help support this, right? Why did compromise become less feasible? Let's see if this thesis answers it. Americans made efforts to resolve political disputes by attempting to compromise, okay, but as time went on, that became more difficult as there was always different. Again, I get nothing that helps to answer the question, so this thesis does not support it. So I'm really asking people to be much more specific. Okay, general is not going to work. Let's not save that. So let me go ahead and go back here. But again, so if you have questions, please ask me, but you really want to work towards the being extremely specific, working towards what are your claims that you're gonna argue. Okay, these questions are a little bit different now. What we're going to see here is we have 3 questions. One of them deals with, the first one is about the relative importance of different causes for the changes in national identity. So we're talking about this, the idea of national identity. How did Americans begin to view themselves? What were some of the reasons why that changed? Our second question is, how did the ideals of American womanhood change between the Revolution and the Civil War? So again, how did women begin to view themselves, or how did their view of themselves change over time? So again, we're trying to look for 2 claims. Women change by this means, women change by this means. Or you could even argue that women didn't change very much. The third question is, evaluate the extent and goals, strategies, and accomplishments of the African American rights movement. So notice our time periods are kind of getting a little bit bigger here. So I think there's some speculation among like Apush teachers that the question they're going to choose is going to kind of cover multiple time periods. So when we see something like African American rights in 1865 to 45, we're really talking about like 3 major time periods: Reconstruction, Gilded Age, and then kind of the World War I, Great Depression, World War II time period. Really, that can be broken up into 3. So we're really talking about 5 different time periods that we would be arguing this point. Okay, so be really careful about how you begin to think about the approach you would take. Okay, so I just kind of wanted to go over those and make sure that people are, let's see, I got to stop. Let's see, I want to stop share. Let's stop share. There we go. So I'll go ahead and shut it down. If anybody has any questions, please let me know. I'm available all day long. I'll be just working out in the yard. So if you need to get a hold of me, probably Remind is the best way. And if you don't have any questions, I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for showing up. Bye.